Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Super Game Brothers podcast, a video game and board game podcast that we put out every single week. My name's David. I'll be the host today, and I'm joined by my co-host, Devin, as usual. Devin, how are you doing on this beautiful evening?
I am quite fine. Fantastic. Thank you for asking.
I'm glad that you're still in a good mood because we've had quite a few technical issues this evening trying to record this, and it kind of put my mood in a down in the dumps for a minute, so it's kind of on you to bring it back up.
I am vibing. I'm happy to be here. Excited for what we have to talk about today.
Yeah,
we got some good stuff.
Lots of good stuff, so I'm excited to be here too. Got my Mountain Dew, so I am ready. Mountain Dew Zero. Can't be drinking my carbs, but
no way.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Very, very pumped to be here. I feel like we're podcasting pros now that we've done one whole episode and just started the second. We'll never be better at podcasting than we are right now. No, I didn't say that right. What I meant was this moment is the best we've ever been at podcasting. So there you go.
Very true. All we can do is celebrate that fact.
Yeah. I hope that what I said first is not right. I hope we will get better.
It's definitely a foreign, unique, stressful thing at first, but it's fun. It's good to do something you're not fully comfortable with, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a real talk with Devin. I totally agree. Cool. Well, we're going to hop right in because we've got a lot to cover today. But for those of you who are new or joining us for the first time, this is a board game and video game podcast where we talk about the games that we're playing, talk about industry news, just kind of touching on highlights, and sprinkle in listener questions along the way. The podcast is brand new, so we don't have any listener questions yet, but we do think that will be a significant portion of our show going forward. For everyone listening, our podcast will be live every Monday. I think it's at 9 a.m. Mountain Time is when I have the RSS feed set to go. But that will be on Apple's podcast services, on Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox. And I guess if anyone has a different service they want to listen to, I can publish it there as well. But those were the ones that were easy to set up. So live for free every Monday. The video version will also be on YouTube every Monday. Since we're very new and just getting started, it would be very helpful to us if you could comment on those YouTube videos, like the videos, maybe give us a podcast review on iTunes or Amazon or wherever you listen. I know it might look a little dead in there since this is brand new. We just started it and haven't even really told anyone at this point other than a few select people. So yeah, if you could interact with our posts, that would be great. Also, we've got a couple social media accounts that if you could check out, that would also help us a ton. Gaming Top Down is where I do my board game content. That is unboxings and board game trivia and other shenanigans over there. And then all of our video game stuff is here on the Super Game Brothers YouTube channel. And we also have Instagram and TikTok accounts. So yeah, please interact with those as well. Send all of our shorts to your grandma. Maybe she'll leave it running on her counter for a few months.
That's a perfect strategy.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. But yeah, I think that'll be that's the exciting part about a podcast is it can be live to everyone to listen to, and we're really excited for it to kind of be everywhere. And that will never. I don't think that'll ever change. We want it to be free and as accessible as always. I do want to start this episode by just talking briefly about Patreon, because I think it's a little bit foreign to some people. Devin, had you ever used Patreon before we started looking at this kind of endeavor?
I've heard the name, but I don't think I've ever even been on the site.
Yeah, Patreon's pretty cool. It basically lets artists, people that make, you could be a painter or sculptor, someone that makes digital art, musician, connect with people that might appreciate their work, and be able to make a living and continue to do what they're doing. So basically what that means for us is we have a Patreon page that has some cool perks that you can get if you follow us over there, and there are different patron levels that you can sign up for. Like I mentioned, you can always listen to this podcast for free. We hope you do. Comment on all the videos, like we said. But if you want to check us out on Patreon, we have 5 different tiers that give you, like I mentioned, cool exclusive perks. The first one is $2 a month, and that tier gives you an extra video every single week. So the one that just went up this Tuesday was, what was that? Sibling Showdown. We played a board game against each other.
Yes.
It was really fun. We played one of our favorite games. It was Dice Throne. Still figuring out exactly the best way to film those, with lighting and everything. So it wasn't maybe perfect quality, but it was fun. I played as Spider-Man. Devin played as, who were you, Black Widow, I think?
I was, yes.
Yeah. So that was a good time. So that video, it's up right now, but it's exclusive to patrons on our Patreon. How Patreon works is if you subscribe at a higher tier, you also get all of the perks beneath it. So if you subscribe at any level, you would get those exclusive videos. The $3 tier gives you access to write into this show and to vote on maybe topics or games that we play in the future. And so if you want to include a question or a comment about something that we might be talking about a board game you like or a video game that you have heard some fun news about, that is what that tier gets you, basically the ability to write into the show. $5 a month gets you everything 3 days early. You get this show instead of on Mondays, on Fridays. And our exclusive videos that we call advanced episodes, you get those on Tuesdays instead of Fridays. Basically, everything early, and then the tiers below. You can submit mail and get those exclusive videos. And then we have 2 higher tier ones if you're interested in that. They are, one of them is an exclusive Q&A, so you could submit questions to us and we will answer them in a Q&A fashion in a exclusive video every month. And then the last one gets your name in the credits if you are so inclined. So that's a little bit about Patreon. It's really pretty straightforward to use. Once you sign up, you can see all of the posts that we've done historically. So if you sign up and we've got 100 historical posts there, they just immediately unlock. So you could even sign up for just 1 month just to check it out, see what's there, and then bounce. We hope you'll stay around because this is what will help our show to, be able to continue for a long time, which is, I think, what we're hoping. I think
that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. So check us out on Patreon. Even if you can sign up for free to just kind of follow the Patreon. There's no really free perks there since all of the content is already free on YouTube and podcast services. But just check us out on there. Yeah, we'd really appreciate it. Cool. So that was a quick shout out about Patreon. Anything else you want to say about Patreon, Devin, before we go to the next segment?
You are the Patreon master. I don't know too much about it. Anything helps us. That's what I would like to note is, like David said, commenting, sharing anything with anybody. No one is obligated to do anything for us, but if you're able to and want to help out the channel, you like what you hear in this podcast, then that would mean a lot to us. It really would.
Yeah. Well said. All right. Well, that's going to kind of be our opening segment for today. We'll probably have more funny or silly things to open with in the future, but I know that there's been a little confusion about what Patreon is, so I thought that would be worth at least calling out. So next up, we're going to talk about what video games and board games we have been playing recently. And Devin, I don't know if you've been playing any new ones really. I know that you, like we talked about last week, you've been playing Dragon's Dogma 2. I think you maybe finished it up, but anything more you want to say about that game?
Fan-freaking-tastic video game.
Still loving it.
For so many reasons. Oh my gosh. It's so good. I would probably rate it a solid 9 out of 10. It's not perfect. There are some things in the game, like the freaking stamina bar that drives me nuts. Like Elden Ring did something right where they added a mount to a game. So you could get places a little bit quicker. Stamina wasn't as crucial as it is in this game. But the game's fantastic. I could name a million things that I like about it. There's a lot of replayability. I just found out there's 3 endings. We completed 2 of them. And one of the endings was like 6 extra hours. Crazy weapons, cool character customization. And the game's just hilarious. It's not... I would say the game is not predictable. For example, there's something called Seeker tokens in the game. 220 of them, I think. And it's just these tokens in the most random places in the world. So the game is going to reward you based on you searching your corners, like I talk about, looking over cliff edges, searching behind waterfalls, taking that extra step to just go, I want to look over there. But the other day I was playing and I come across a troll. The troll grabbed me in his hand and he threw me across a river. And I landed in the weirdest area. And I was like, oh, I die here. I'm going to have to reload. Little did I know, a Seeker token lie next to me. So the game's just super cool. The mechanics of it are so unique. The movement is so unique. The fighting is so unique. You can climb the enemies. I think we talked about this last week. Definitely worth $70. I don't think it's going to be everyone's favorite game. It's not the most well-made game I've ever played. I would have liked a few more unique weapons, which maybe you could find if you put a little more time into the game. But overall, top tier game. Glad we streamed it. Super, super fun.
That's cool. I saw a couple of those alternate endings that you did, and some of them were really kind of unique. I don't want to spoil anything, but kind of post-credit kind of interesting things that were pretty fancy. Thought it looked pretty cool. The other thing I wanted to mention about Dragon's Dogma 2, you mentioned it seeming like it's worth $70. How long do you think you've played it for? Because I think you've had a lot of hours, right?
I think I'm about 70 hours.
Crazy.
But if I didn't have chat, if I wasn't streaming it, I wouldn't have known about the alternate endings. Right. There was something specific I had to do in the game to get there, and I would have never done it. I would have let the credits roll, and I would have thought that there was one ending, which would have not been the case. But about 70 hours, yeah. And I bet you could put 150 into it, maybe.
Yeah.
To see everything.
To do everything. Man, I think that's a ton of value. When I think about, like, my wife and I almost went and saw Dune last night. Our babysitter fell through. I was really bummed because I wanted to see it. But yeah, I think that was going to be like $25 in movie ticket, and then if we bought popcorn and drinks, which we definitely would have, that would have been $40-$50 evening for a 2-hour movie. I think games sometimes get a bad rap for the high price tag, but that's a lot of hours of entertainment that you got out of that. So I think that's really cool. I'm excited to start it. It's a little overwhelming to me. It's such a massive game, but yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2 seems like it's still got some buzz though. So that's cool that you were able to stream that. Any other games that you wanted to highlight? I know you've played a little bit of Rocket League lately, but I think
Rocket League's super hard nowadays. They changed something to the ranking system, which basically takes really, really good players and pushes them down a few ranks. So Grand Champ is a rank in Rocket League. I'm sure all of you know that. And that's where I usually sat at, was about Grand Champ. Right under that is Champ 1, 2, and 3. And for some reason after this update, I'm just stuck at like level 3, 2, sometimes even 1. And I really, really struggle to get back up to Grand Champ. Also, that game is becoming kind of filled with very, very toxic people. And it's super interesting to me. I don't know why. But it doesn't seem like people are getting along in that video game. But they're doing cool updates, cool skins, that type of thing, and good game.
I totally agree with you there, though. The toxicity in that game is kind of crazy, especially on console. You can only do like the canned chat messages. I think you can pre-type, but it's so time-consuming if you don't have a keyboard. that basically everybody uses the canned responses, and even with just those, you can be like so sarcastic and silly. What a save! What a save! What a save! Nice shot! Nice shot!
Oh yeah.
So even with just those stupid messages, you can make somebody feel really stupid. So be nice out there on the Rocket Leagues.
Be nice out there.
Be the change you want to see on the pitch, you know?
Oh yeah.
I think you got back up to Grand Champ today though, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I'm gonna call it luck. We got there though.
I don't know. Watching you play, I don't think it was luck. Devin's really good at that game. Check him out, Player4 on Twitch. He plays Rocket League occasionally, so cool. Well, I've been playing a few different games. I mentioned one of them last week, so I'll just mention it really briefly. Still been playing Vampire Survivors on my Rogue Ally, and it's still great. We'll have a tiny tidbit of news about that game later. Nothing really else to say other than it's just still a silly blast, just crushing tens of thousands of enemies in a level. Just a fun loop. Other than that, I've been playing 2 other games. The first one I just released a video on our YouTube channel actually about. It was my first hour and a half with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That's the most recent Prince of Persia game, and it's a Metroidvania game. It was 2D. Basically, you explore this map, find new secret abilities, maybe like a double jump or a wall climb and things like that lets you get to new places. Lots of Metroidvania games usually have backtracking and those upgradable abilities. Games like Castlevania and Hollow Knight kind of come to mind. But yeah, it's really great so far in the first hour and a half. The production values are really high. The art, like on the cutscenes, is incredible, especially the hand-drawn like 2D art. When you're playing the game, it is 3D art. I wish it had been the 2D hand-drawn stuff during gameplay, but even the 3D art during gameplay is still very pretty. And just some extra touches. You can tell that they spent, some extra money to make it feel more, fleshed out than some other games. It has full voice acting, so you're not just reading text. Even the next game that I'm going to mention, one of the biggest games in the world, doesn't have full voice acting. So that was interesting to see, and it's very, very pretty, especially if you're playing above 1080 and HDR on. The colors really pop. The movement and combat are also really fluid, which I'd say is a staple for Prince of Persia games. If the running and the combat weren't, that would be a big bummer. But they're really nice. It kind of has some kind of very light, kind of not exactly Souls-like combat, but lots of parrying and dodging through and around enemies to avoid their attacks. And if you die, you lose some currency. So very, very light kind of touchstone there. But yeah, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is super, super good. I'm excited to keep playing it.
Would you say that it's difficult?
I kind of would. I'm playing on, there were, I think, 5 difficulty levels. I chose standard, which is the second one from the easiest. Okay, and even above that, they have a whole bunch of extra settings. You can do like speedrun mode or permadeath mode, where if you die, you have to start all the way over. And I imagine at those higher difficulty levels, it is pretty difficult, because I've already died 3 times, I think, in the first hour and a half. You take a lot of damage if you get hit. That really kind of prioritizes the parrying and the dodging. So yeah, I think it can be difficult if you want it to be.
Yeah, super cool.
I don't think there are any difficulty related trophies, so I think if you just want to get the platinum, you can play on normal or easy and just kind of enjoy yourself. But if you're looking for the difficulty, I think it's there. So yeah, awesome. Highly recommend that. I think I gave it I usually give games kind of a rating after my first segment played, and I gave it a gold trophy at that point. So sitting in a solid 8.5 out of 10 there. And we'll see. Hopefully it will just continue to go up. Seems pretty solid. We'll have some more Prince of Persia news too later in the episode. But the other game I've been playing is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. And man, this game is so big. I've been playing it off and on since it came out last year. I think it came out last June or something. So almost a full year ago. and it's just really, really wonderful. I have this weird relationship with Zelda where whichever one I played last is my favorite. And I don't know, it's just kind of always been like that. I don't know why. I think they iterate pretty well, even though I think some people would say they don't iterate fast enough, especially when you like look at the graphics or the performance sometimes. But I mean, when Breath of the Wild came out, I thought it was pretty kind of revolutionary, at least for an open world game for me. I get overwhelmed by like a flood of icons, like on. I don't want to throw too much shade on this franchise because I think it has some fun moments, but like Assassin's Creed, I tried to play the what was that one? The one where you were in Greece and you could pick between the brother and the sister main characters, I think. And man, just infinite number of missions. I feel like you could play that game for ever and never really make as much progress as you want. I really like Zelda's approach, and Elden Ring kind of did the same thing, where it's much more organic. They're not like just throwing, hey, here's a pinpoint on your map. We need you to go here and deliver this guy something, or go to this mission here. There is sometimes like a little bit of that. Like we saw this over here on the map, and you can pin things on the map, but it's generally you exploring because you want to. And I think you've maybe felt this a little bit with Dragon's Dogma as well. Exploring because you want to, and then running into things you didn't expect and getting sidetracked and just kind of
way too often. Yes.
Yeah, just enjoying getting sidetracked. And even though I meant to head towards Gerudo Town, I got totally sidetracked, and now I'm talking with Prince Sidon on the other side of the map and doing something completely different. Really love that about the newer Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And so Breath of the Wild was kind of my favorite open world game since it came out, but I think Tears of the Kingdom is better in basically every way. The story is definitely better. The boss fights are definitely better. The dungeons are definitely better. And I think it's definitely bigger. There's I don't want to spoil anything about this game because I know you're going to play it soon on stream, but
I am.
There's a lot more verticality, and I don't know, sometimes there are some Breath of the Wild things I kind of miss, like being able to just pull out a square or a round bomb whenever I wanted in Breath of the Wild with those different runes. In this game, in Tears of the Kingdom, the abilities are all different than in the first game. But man, they're so much more versatile. You can be so stinking creative with some of the things you build and fly around on, and yeah, it's just really incredible. I've played through the first 4 dungeons, I think, and my 7-year-old son passed me in the game probably a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
Surprisingly, he's really good at games. He beat me in Mario Kart the other day, just in like a single race, but yeah, it makes you really start to feel old when the children that you created start beating you at things, but yeah, he's passed me, surprisingly. He did need some help with some of the bosses. They can be a little tough for them to understand the combat and lock on and dodging and things like that. But so I've helped him get a little bit farther, and we are actually right before the final boss fight at this point. We've been playing together for the last week. So we're just about to finish it. Man, it's so cool. So great. Story's so much cooler. Ganondorf is just so awesome. This is a tangent, but one of my favorite shows is Attack on Titan, and there's a character in that called Levi, and the guy that does his voice in the American dub does the voice acting for Ganondorf. So just the whole time I'm hyped up, and I'm like, oh, Levi's gonna like fly over here with some ODM gear, and it's not, but Ganondorf's really cool in this game, so I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. I think you'll find it fairly easy, compared to some of the difficult games that you usually play. But I think if you're just creative with it and just kind of let your imagination go and try to build weird airplanes and things, go to areas that you're in different orders than you're supposed to and explore, around and above and underneath everything, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. Super game. I'm excited to see how it wraps up. I think it's, like I said, whichever Zelda game I played last is my favorite one, but I think it will probably be my favorite Zelda game. It's amazing. So
Super
Tears of
cool.
the Kingdom, super great. Which I know everybody knows already. Having the game having been out for a year, but I'm finally just finishing my playthrough after probably playing 90 to 100 hours, I would imagine. It's a big game. You could probably do it faster. I'm sure you could if you like mainlined it, but it's just fun to get lost. So I wouldn't want to mainline it too much. Cool. That's all of the video games that I've been playing this week. It's been a really busy week. Launching this podcast, making sure it actually went out, launching all of the YouTube and Patreon stuff has been very time consuming. So I haven't played quite as much as I usually do, but I am excited to get the second section of Prince of Persia played and finish up Zelda, and yeah, just see what other games are kind of calling my name at that point, because there's so many games coming out nowadays. It's hard to even stay up on like what's coming out next. Maybe that should be a segment of our show. What games are coming out in the next week? I don't know. The number of games that come out every week is insane, so we'd have to really curate that. Cool. Any other video game stuff you want to hit on? I know you've played a little bit of Clash Royale as well on stream, and I know you're always playing that.
Love Clash Royale. Like I just hit the 8-year badge in that game on my phone, which was embarrassing and amazing.
Wait. That just means it's been 8 years since you like first installed it.
Yes, and we calculated it out on stream today, and I have, what did we say I had? 3,300 hours in that game.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of hours. That game's still amazing. They're updating it constantly. A lot of people complain about the updates, but if you just enjoy it for what it is, they're making changes at least, so the game is still playable, in my opinion. Even if you don't like every change or every card that's added, great mobile game. The only other game I would like to touch on, I don't know anything about it yet, but we are going to be streaming it tomorrow. I think it's called Silent Breath. Some new horror game. You're looking for 5 individuals in a world. The game can hear your microphone, so you don't want to scream. If you scream, I think that it actually resets your progress in the game. I don't think this is the first of its kind. I think there are other games that have done this, but that should be fun. You know me, I love my horror games.
Yeah, for sure. That does sound unique. I think there are, I've only maybe heard of that a couple times though, so I don't think it's used very often. Well, cool. I'm excited to see how that goes. Cool. Well, that's kind of it for the video games we've been playing this week. So let's hop into the board games that we played recently. I've got a couple, and then we've got a couple that I know we played at a family get together. So maybe I'll talk first, and then we can hit on those two if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
Both of these games I did mention last week in my 5 favorite board games. Well, actually, one of them in my 5 favorite board games, and another one just in the what I've been playing section. So, still playing Dune Imperium. I think I'm just generally kind of obsessed with Dune right now. I've watched the part 1 a couple times recently, and like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to get to part 2. It's just hard with the 3 kids that are at home, and I guess it's called neglect if I leave them here and go to the movies without them. But it does sound like, I think I read that part 2 is coming to streaming next week. So that might just have to be how I watch it, is buying it on Amazon Prime or something. Very excited to see it though. I'm afraid that it has too much like hype and anticipation in my mind, so I'm going to be let down, but I've only heard good things, so we'll see. Anyways, still playing Dune Imperium, still really liking it. I think there's more and more depth that you can find there, and I played with one of the expansions this last time that I played, and man, it just kind of destroyed my brain again with the new things that it added. I think it was called The Rise of Ix, and it just added a tiny little board on the right and some new pieces that you can send into combat that when they're used in combat, they go back to your barracks instead of being destroyed. So yeah, very, very interesting. And Dune Imperium is just great. A little thinky if you're not used to modern board games. It might be kind of a little bit for you, but it's really not very difficult to play. And I think if you like Dune, you should definitely try it, even if you just try the Steam or iOS version. Other game I've been playing, I also mentioned last week, this one is in my top 5 games of all time. It's called Cryo. I'm going to pull it up in front of the camera again. Basically, it's a worker placement game where you send out your drones, these pieces up here, to go out onto this board where your ship has crash landed and rescue your people from cryosleep. And so you'll place a drone out and get to grab something from the board. And then you have this kind of base that after you've played all 3 of your drones out, on your next turn, you'll pull, it's called I forget what they call it, like a return your workers turn. You'll basically pull all 3 of your drones back. And when you pull them back, wherever you place them on your board, you get to activate that column. And there's little indentations on your board, so you can slot in different things. So I can kind of custom make what I want my pullback actions to be. If I want it to be, get me 2 crystals, or let me convert this resource into another one, or let me play a card. You can really kind of specialize your own player board there. It's an awesome worker placement game. If you like just a little bit of conflict, you do have to fight over area control in the caves that you put your cryosleep people in. So whoever has the most in a cave will get the majority of the points. That's the main point of conflict. And you can block people from worker placement spots with those drones. But Cryo is really great. I don't think it gets quite enough love. I think the designer, his name's Luke Laurie. I think he had a co-designer on this game. Yeah, Tom Jolly. But Luke Laurie is, I think, my favorite worker placement designer between that game and Whistle Mountain. And I have a humongous game coming later this fall, I think in September, called Andromeda's Edge. It's a huge sci-fi worker placement game. He just does it really, really well. So Cryo's amazing. Definitely want to give a shout out to Cryo. The last 2 games that we have here on the list are 2 kind of party games that we played together with our family. And I thought we would mention them really quick, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on them. I'm very picky with party games. I think that some of them are not fun and can kind of just be a way for whoever is the most social or talkative person in the room to continue to be talkative or social. But I think I did like both of these ones. So the first one we played, I think we actually played it second, but it's called Fiction. And it is very much inspired by a very popular word game called Wordle. And I think most people have probably played Wordle, where you're trying to guess some word that's 5 letters long. And when you submit a guess, the game will tell you if the letters are incorrect, so they're not in the word, if they're in the word but in a different spot, or if they're perfectly in the word and in the right spot. And that's what Fiction is. One player is dictated as the librarian, and they play against the rest of the players. And so the librarian kind of takes that role of, when the other players submit a guess to me, I need to tell them if the letters are correct or not. But there's one twist which makes a big difference and kind of makes it a little confusing at first. But the librarian has to lie about one of the 5 clues they give back to the other team on every guess. And the other team knows that. And so they're going to try and pinpoint which of the 5 clues that you, as the librarian, gave that are the lie. They do have 3 tokens that they can use each round, and each round they can submit up to 5 guesses. I think there is a time limit. You have 5 guesses or 8 or 10 minutes, depending on if you're playing like casual or a little more stressful mode. And yeah, for those 5 guesses, you can place a piece out that says true or false, I think, on the 2 sides of the little cardboard piece. And you'll place it next to a letter, and then the librarian has to tell you if that clue they gave was the lie or if it was the truth. So you're trying to pinpoint those lies so that you can really lock in on the letters. And as the librarian, you're trying to tell strategic lies, like, okay, if I lie about this vowel, being in the word, that will probably confuse them more than if I lie about the letter Z, for example. So there's a little bit of thought that has to go into both sides. And you can probably, as the librarian, mess up, I would imagine, because you have to track a little bit, like, what were the 5 actual clues? Circle which one you gave that was actually the lie. So I think the person most familiar with games should probably be the librarian the first time or two. But after that, I think you could swap in and out pretty easily. Comes in a really tiny box. It's a pretty simple game, just has some pieces that you'll write your guesses on, and then some circle pieces that the librarian will mark if it was what kind of clue they gave back. I thought it was pretty fun. I really like Wordle. I think I need to play it some more to determine if I really love it or if I think that twist just kind of comes down to, I don't think luck is the right word, but just kind of brute force. Can we always break the librarian? Like if we always focus on kind of the same kind of process of elimination and pinpoint a vowel and pinpoint the next vowel or something, can we always break them? Because that would be a bummer if you always could. But anyways, what did you think about the game, Devin? I know you were maybe there for only one round, but
Yeah, it seemed cool to me. You know, I like Wordle. I play Wordle on stream sometimes, actually. I wonder, like you said, if you could put a different twist on the game that would make it so the guessers could be slightly more strategic. I love strategy, and when there's unknowns that are unknown, you know what I'm saying?
oh yeah,
And you can't really break through that. It kind of breaks down strategy. It's almost rolling dice at that point. Was the librarian lying about this letter? Or was it this one?
mm-hmm.
And so the game's good. I think it's fun. It brings people together. But I wonder if there's a twist on the game, a better twist for Wordle that could make it more strategic and more engaging for those of us that really want to build a strategy to win, I guess.
Yeah,
I would say that. But it was a cool game. Cool game.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I don't know how long of legs it will have for me. I think it's fun, and it will probably be fun with new groups, for 4 or 5 more plays. But I'm curious to see if it will get kind of stale at that point.
Yeah, maybe
it's so small that I don't know that I'll purge it from my wall of games behind me, but it is valuable real estate, so it might need to go at that point. We'll see. Cool. Yeah, fiction, I'd recommend it, especially if you like Wordle, and if things like crossword puzzles and kind of advanced word puzzles are your jam. The second one we played is called Half Truth. It's a kind of a trivia game, but you don't have to be like the smartest at trivia to win. It's about knowing when to play it safe and when to double down or go all in with your trivia guesses. I think it was made by the designer of Magic the Gathering and Ken Jennings, that like Jeopardy legend that won like, I don't even know how many, 30 games in a row or some crazy number. And basically, you won't be able to see this very well, but a trivia question will come out with 6 answers underneath the question. The example here on the screen is movies over 3 hours long, and it has 6 movies, including Dances with Wolves, Scarface, The Green Mile, etc. 3 of those answers will be true. They are over 3 hours long, and 3 will be false. They're not. And so of those 6 guesses, you have to choose at least one to submit as your answer. And if you get that one right, then you get to move forward on the round track, the number of spaces that were rolled on the die. But if you double down and go for 2 and get both of them right, then you get a bonus point. And if you triple down and go all in, then you get 2 bonus points if you get all 3 of them right. But when you double down and go all in, and even one of your answers is wrong, then you get nothing. And so it's all about trying to decide how well do I know the answers to this question? And that one on the back, for example, was really tricky. It gave the times for the 6 movies, and some of them were like 2 hours 56 minutes and 3 hours and 2 minutes. So some of them are very tricky. I think it's pretty rare that you're going to know with a lot of assurity all 3 of them. Usually you'll know one, and it's probably smartest just to take that turn to just play the one answer and make sure that you move forward on the point tracker. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. The pieces are nice. They're nice big poker chips that you use as your pieces to place your answers out. And I think that kind of the family was a little bummed, I guess. Bummed isn't the right word, but I'm going to continue to say it. Bummed that they couldn't pinpoint the answers more frequently, that they couldn't go all in or double down and be right more often, because it's very difficult questions. But I think if it did lean into that more, then it would just favor whoever is better at general trivia. And I think for that, then people are probably just going to play like Trivial Pursuit or something that is just strictly a trivia game. So I kind of liked the balance it struck. And if you get behind, then you might double down really hard for a few turns just to try and catch back up to get those bonus points. But I really think the safer play usually is just to try and get one answer on most turns. But how'd you like Half Truth, Devin?
It was unique. I'm the opposite of, what's his name? Kevin Jennings? What'd you say?
Close. Ken Jennings.
Ken Jennings.
If you changed it just a little bit more, it would change to Devin Jennings. So you almost got there.
I am not Devin Jennings at all. I don't know any trivia questions, yet I went into the game with a strategy of let's double down every turn. Not the way to play this game. It worked one time, and that's because the question was about Harry Potter. Okay?
Right.
I got all 3 right, and I moved forward for the only time I ever actually got to move forward all game. I got absolutely obliterated by this game because the questions are hard. Mm-hmm. Maybe they could be slightly easier, maybe, but I agree with you. There is some strategy. It's like, I would say 60-70% of the time you do want to play it a little bit safer.
Yeah.
Unless you are such a genius, but I am not. That is not me. But it was fun. Once again, gets people together. You can be on teams, which is nice. So you can do it like couples, like a little date night. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So, fun game. I'm glad you showed it to us, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it was a good time too. I think it plays 2 to 6 players generally. So there's 6 sets of poker chips, but we did play in teams. So me and my wife played together, and I think mom and dad played as one team. So I think we played with probably 10 people. And that was fun, just to kind of, the reveal, flipping over the card to see which 3 are highlighted green was always kind of a fun moment to see who was right and who wasn't. Most of the time wasn't. But yeah, Half Truth, I think it's a good one. I liked it better than Fiction, I think. It'll just kind of depend on how much you like trivia or not. If you want it to be strictly trivia, then I don't think you're going to like it. But if you want something that's a little more lighthearted and a little more about just trying to get one answer right and sometimes get 2 or 3, then I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's all the board games I think we've played this week. Again, super busy. I think that now that we've got a full week here in the books and we're recording the 2nd episode, I think we're getting more into kind of a rhythm and a flow. So we'll have maybe a bit more to talk about from week to week, but that's kind of what we've been playing in the last little bit. All right, from here, we're going to jump into news, and man, there is kind of a lot. Difficult to know sometimes if things are too small to pull in, but I liked all of the ones that I've listed here. So I don't want to spoil too much, but we got 14 items of video game news. And I don't think I will stay on any one of them too long so that this podcast isn't forever long, but let's hop right in. We got more free games this week. Seems like every week, either PlayStation or Game Pass or the Epic Game Store does have a free game every week. So you always got that one. There's just too many to keep up with, really. But on PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, starting this coming Tuesday, which I think is the 16th. Correct me on that, but I think it maybe is.
I think you are correct, yes.
There are a bunch of new games coming to PS Plus Extra. I'm going to read them real quick. A couple of them we mentioned last week because they revealed them early. But first off is Dave the Diver, which looks really cool. Kind of an indie diving game. Oddballers, which I believe is a dodgeball game. Construction Simulator, another simulator. The Crew 2, Raji and Ancient Epic, the Lego Ninjago movie video game. I know Devin's really looking forward to that one. Noir, Play with Your Food. Deliver Us Mars, which I'm actually pretty interested in. It's kind of a sci-fi, I think kind of like a walking sim, like you explore like the moon or something. I guess this one's probably not the moon since in the title it says Mars. I think it's a kind of a sequel to Deliver Us the Moon, which was an earlier game. So if you've played that one, I think it looks pretty cool. I like sci-fi. Lego Marvel's Avengers, Miasma Chronicles, Stray Blade, Tales of Kenzera Zhao, which will be available on the 23rd, and Animal Well is another indie game, but it won't be available until the 9th of May. So that one's announced a little bit early too. And then on the premium tier, they have 3, I think what they call classics. They've got Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare, which I think was on PlayStation 2. And there was a new Alone in the Dark game recently. So I think this might be a little bit of marketing for that too, with the original version out on PS Plus. Next one is Star Wars Rebel Assault 2, The Hidden Empire. Never played that one, but some of those old Star Wars games, like the original Battlefronts, and what was that one called? Jedi Fighter? Nope. There was that one where you played as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it was pretty fun on the original Xbox. Anyways, I don't know what this Rebel Assault one is all about, but check it out. And then the original PS1 version of Medieval, which they did remake a few years ago. And I think that remake has been on PlayStation Plus. So you can play the original or the remake if you've had PS Plus for a while. Then on the Epic Store, free this week is Ghost Runner, which is a first-person, I think, kind of quick combat game with slashy swords and stuff. Any of those that you want to check out, Devin, or are they all just kind of passes?
I don't know them too well just by their names, but Ghost Runner, I believe that I've seen. And if it's going to be free, I'm going to try it out. I think I kind of know what it is. It looked like it was like parkour, like you said, a little slashy sword action. Maybe Japanese, or am I wrong?
Oh, that's a good question. It looks like it might take place in like a Japanese setting, kind of that like vibe with like masks and kind of colors that pop kind of thing.
Okay. So I was half right. Let's go.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Cool. So lots of free games. Check them out. Add them to your library. All the things. Number 2, we got lots of Destiny 2 news this week. They had that developer live stream that we mentioned last week. And I think the 2 important announcements that came out of that about the new expansion coming out in June is that there's going to be a new enemy faction in that expansion called the Dread. I think there were some enemies that Push Square said looked like flying bats with guns, and a few other examples. So there's a new faction and a new subclass called Prismatic that allows you to mix light and dark powers. I think those were the 2 highlights from the new expansion. They also announced kind of I don't know what this is called. It's not like a mini expansion, but just kind of in the lead up to that expansion, a new kind of content drop called Into the Light, which is live now up till June 3rd, which is the day before the final shape launches. And I think it does a lot of things. It brings back 12 vaulted weapons. I didn't write down all of their names here, but they had very crazy and weird names. There was a new wave-based mode, new exotic missions, and the weapons from those exotic missions. I think they're returning exotic missions that haven't been around for a while. called the Whisper and Zero Hour. I don't know if you remember those from the days you played.
I
Devin,
do.
oh, interesting.
I believe you earn Whisper of the Worm. It's a sniper in that game. It looks like they brought them back, but they also revamped them because people were getting too strong in the game. They didn't want you to just be able to walk through these old missions now that you're level 40,000 in Destiny. But you'll be able to get the exotics. And then I also saw a little bit of customization with the weapons. So you get the Whisper of the Worm sniper, and then you're able to put like a perk or an ability on that weapon to kind of make it your own based on your play style. Maybe you can shoot more bullets before it reloads or something like that. I don't know exactly what the perks are, but a little bit more customization to exotics is kind of sounds cool to me.
Yeah, that does sound cool. I think the last thing that I noticed in the write-up was they're having some starter kits that new players can kind of start with so that you're not starting from scratch. Probably to try and get new people in before what's it called? Final Shape launches. So if you're wanting to check out Destiny 2, it sounds like now might be as good a time as any, since the Final Shape, I think, is their last content drop in June, which I think is on June 4th.
Oh, yes, and I did see there's a new shader called Super Black Shader, and it's like decked out, all black everything, like tinted windows. And it looks so good. It looks so good.
Remind me, shaders, can you only put them on armor, or can you also put them on weapons?
I want to say just armor, but I haven't opened the game for a long time.
Yeah. I do remember the shaders being a big deal, though. So that's cool. New shader. Awesome. Lots of Destiny 2 stuff going on. All right, next one up, there was a new trailer for Star Wars Outlaws that Ubisoft released, and they revealed that the game is going to come out on August 30th. I watched the trailer. There wasn't really any gameplay shown in the trailer, but it's a very pretty CGI trailer. Looks like the game engine can make pretty cutscenes. So hopefully the gameplay also translates over. A couple questions for you, Devin. Do you like Star Wars and or Star Wars games? And are you excited for Outlaws?
I haven't played too many Star Wars games. I've played Super Nintendo Star Wars games. Those were impossible.
Super hard.
Knights of the Old Republic. Is that the one they're remaking or something? Maybe.
Yeah, they're supposed to be, but it might be in trouble. But yeah.
Gotcha. I do love Star Wars, though. I always ask myself, do I like Star Wars, Harry Potter, or Lord of the Rings the most? And I think, like you said earlier, I like whichever one I've watched most recently. They're all so good. Very touching. Love Star Wars. I'm not typically huge on sci-fi, but Star Wars does it for me.
Yeah, so I like Star Wars as well. If we're comparing those three things, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings, then I think that, man, I really think that restraint is helpful. Yeah, when talking about those franchises, because I loved Star Wars growing up, like so much. We watched, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return to the Jedi so much, and then as like a young teenager is when the prequels came out. Loved those, even though looking back on them now, some parts with Jar Jar Binks and over dramatic Anakin are a little silly, but still like them. I just think Star Wars has had so many things lately. It's really kind of hurt my excitement for new Star Wars things. I still love the old stuff, but there's just so much. Like I can't keep up on The Bad Batch, and I haven't even seen the third season of The Mandalorian yet, even though I really like The Mandalorian. And
yeah, they are doing a lot.
Boba Fett show and the Ahsoka show, and then there's the animated series that I think started maybe on Nickelodeon that has I think 9 seasons or something. That people say if you really want to get the most out of Ahsoka, you need to watch the Clone Wars first. I'm like, I don't have time to watch 9 seasons of Clone Wars before I watch Ahsoka.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot. I really like Star Wars' high points a ton. The Jedi series is really great. Really liked the last one, Jedi Survivor. It's an amazing game. And yeah, the first 6 movies I really liked, and I liked moments of the sequel trilogy, but somehow Palpatine returned is kind of like the worst thing ever. I hate that line, and hate that he was back. But anyways, yeah. So Star Wars is definitely not my favorite out of those 3. I think Lord of the Rings is definitely tier 1 there, and I think it's just restraint. But even then, they kind of had to butcher The Hobbit because they couldn't help themselves. So, corporatism of things that we love is always kind of a bummer because they see dollar signs, and I don't know. I think some of the best like TV shows and movies have like an end. Like Breaking Bad is like 5 seasons of the very best TV that have like ever existed. Interstellar is 3 hours long, but then it ends, and it's like one of the best sci-fi movies like ever made.
And some people hate that movie.
I don't understand that, but I think you're probably right. So yeah, I don't know. I like things that have like an end, kind of. Not that Star Wars necessarily has to end. The things I really liked about Star Wars were kind of the offshoots. I liked Rogue One was really good, and I even liked the Han Solo one. It was just kind of like an offshoot Han Solo story that was just one movie. It had a start and an end instead of like, okay, we're going to make 7 Mandalorian seasons. And if you want to get the most out of season 4, you got to watch the Book of Boba Fett. And if you want to understand that, then you got to, I don't know, read this comic book about Mandalore. And this is the way. Even though a lot of that stuff is great. I don't know. I'm just ranting at this point. Yeah, I'm kind of nervous about Harry Potter as well, since we're talking about all 3 of them. Really love the Harry Potter books. Movies, I think, are solid, but not amazing, but solid. The kind of bright spot for Harry Potter is the new series that they're doing, I think is being made by HBO. And they're doing I think it's a full season for every year that they're in school. So they can like really flesh out and spend lots of time with characters. That sounds cool. That's like a new way to do it. New interesting idea. Again, has a start and an end. Even though that'll be longer than most things, but I don't know. Kind of ranted a bit there. I think Star Wars Outlaws, it looks pretty cool. At least the CGI trailer. But until they show me gameplay, I'm not going to be super interested. In part of the trailer, she was kind of sneaking around, and if this ended up being kind of a stealth game, they mentioned like if you can get in there and steal his gold, then you'll be free or something in the trailer. If it was like a stealth game where you had to be stealthy, sneak into these outlaws kind of hideouts and try to get away with as much stuff as you could, that sounds cool. But for some reason, I just feel like it's going to be like a third-person shooter, kind of more than stealth. But we'll see. August 30th, so I'm guessing they'll probably show more of it pretty soon. I don't think any gameplay has come out to this point. I may be wrong, but in that trailer, there definitely wasn't any. All right, number 4. According to Jeff Grubb, we mentioned him last week from Giant Bomb, EA has scrapped their planned Dead Space 2 remake. According to Video Games Chronicle, quote, that's according to Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb, who was discussing developer Motive's current projects following the news that EA has made that studio part of its wider Battlefield development team. They were working on Dead Space 2, and they are no longer working on it, he claimed. It's on the shelf because the first game had lackluster sales, is how he phrased it to me. Then, either later that day or the next day, in a statement to IGN, EA said, we don't normally comment on rumors, but there's no validity to this story. Then, they're just continuing back and forth here. Video Games Chronicle continues. Grubb stuck to his guns, however, writing, I give you my permission to believe EA if you want, but whenever a company says that isn't true, but they don't specify which part of the story they are talking about, well, yeah. Dead Space 2 was definitely being planned, it had a code name, and they aren't making it now. End quote. This would really suck. That Dead Space remake from, was it just last year? Might have been 2 years ago now. time is an elusive thing that I can't remember. But that remake, man, it was so good. That was the first time I'd ever played through the entire game, other than a few snippets here and there. So good. What a fun, actually scary kind of. I think the reason I liked it so much is it kind of has Metroidvania vibes, but in 3D. There's no new weapons you need to get to be able to access a new part of the ship, and you're kind of exploring the whole ship. You're alone for a lot of the time. Boss fights are big and crazy, but just yeah, I thought it was so good. So I'd be really bummed if they have bailed on the second one. I don't know if the second one is supposed to be as good as the first one, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think people really do like the first one and the second one, and the third one was the one that generally people don't like as much. So I don't know. Would you be bummed about this, Devin? I'm assuming you would be.
Yeah, a bit. I love horror games. I liked the first one enough to go for the platinum on PlayStation. I don't think I got the platinum. I can't remember. There was one thing I needed to do. I don't know if it was max
I think you have to do
difficulty.
a couple playthroughs, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did the one playthrough and then I went back, started again, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to go through all of this, but harder. But other than that, honestly, the game was fantastic. Super fun, scary, creepy, very dark.
Very violent.
But yeah, I look forward to any horror game that is coming out, and so one less of those is a bit of a bummer, but I'll get over it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a bummer to me when these big conglomerate, that's probably not the right business term. I'm not like a expert in business terms, but EA is telling Motive, who made that remake, okay, we need you to also help with Battlefield. We need you to help DICE and their other teams with the big shooter. It kind of reminds me of what Activision did. They had a few teams, and I can't remember all of their names, but one of them was named Raven. They used to make like Tony Hawk, and they made like their own first-person shooter game that I can't remember the name of. I think they also made like a Wolverine game on the original Xbox or PS2. And so they were making like really cool and fun things. But for the last like 15 years, they've just said like, okay, you're one of the 5 studios that we need to just forever be making Call of Duty. And then just a couple of years ago, Activision did the same thing to, I think their name is Vicarious Visions. They're the company that made the Crash Bandicoot remakes of 1, 2, and 3. And I think they maybe did the Spyro remakes of Spyro the Dragon. And they maybe even were the team, or Toys for Bob, I think they did the same thing with, that made Crash Bandicoot 4. I'm just like, man, these teams are making such awesome things. The Crash remakes were awesome. So well made. And the Spyro remake was also awesome. All 3 games in one package. And Crash 4 is also super. And then here we've got EA telling Motive that you can't make, Dead Space 2 because it didn't sell well enough. It's really a bummer when it's a company's job to try and make as much money as possible. So I understand and get that that's what they have to do, but I really wish that some of these games that so are deserving of money had made more money. Because man, I think all of those examples I just gave, I like infinitely more than just the Call of Duty machine.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a more rambling. Let's see how much rambling David can do on every single news bullet point. But yeah, this would be a bummer to me, just because I'm more of like the single player gamer that loves indie games, new ideas, and while Dead Space and Crash Bandicoot aren't new ideas, it was the first Dead Space thing in, I don't know, 12 years or something. So this would be a bummer to me, but we'll see. Maybe it ends up being not true, but it seems like he would know a lot better than me, so I'm going to believe him until proven otherwise. Alrighty, number 5. We'll go through these a little faster, hopefully. A new Prince of Persia game has been announced. Even though the Prince of Persia game I'm playing, The Lost Crown, just barely came out, I think maybe in September or October? Oh, maybe even after that, maybe December. A new one's been announced. It's called The Rogue Prince of Persia, and it's a roguelite kind of side-scroller game in a similar vein to Dead Cells. and I think it's made by a company named Evil Pinata or something. I should have written down their name. Who helped with Dead Cells a bit. So, I mean, that gives me some confidence that they kind of understand the genre. It's coming to PC to Steam Early Access on May 14th. I'm not generally a huge fan of Early Access, but they did say it will be coming to consoles once their kind of version 1.0 is ready. So that looked pretty cool. I thought the trailer did look kind of early access to me, like unfinished assets and stuff, but the idea seems super cool. Prince of Persia, where you're running forward, defeating all these enemies, probably a procedurally generated map, different enemies you're trying to defeat, and if you die, you start over, but probably keep some upgrades to either health or new weapons and things like that. So that could be really cool. I hope so. Another couple quick ones. This one I mentioned earlier, Vampire Survivors, is coming to PlayStation 5 this summer. Jump on that one. It's a really great game. If it's the same price as everywhere else, it'll probably be $5. And I highly recommend it. Especially if you like Castlevania and old kind of retro pixel games. Number 7, a game called Shadow of Doubt is coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X this year. It's a detective game that has been very well liked in early access on Steam. It has an interesting art style.
It looks like Minecraft.
Yeah, it kind of does. It looks like Sherlock Holmes or like LA Noire mixed with blocky characters.
Yeah.
You're in like a 3D space, so you can, I think it's first person, and you can like walk around to different buildings, and it looked like you could walk around like on the road and explore like crime scenes and things. But yeah, kind of an interesting choice to make the characters blocky, but I didn't hate the direction they went. It doesn't look fully Minecraft, but just kind of blocky. So keep an eye out for that. Next one, another game I hadn't heard of. It's called Beyond the Ice Palace 2. It's been announced as coming soon, and it's a sequel to Beyond the Ice Palace, which came out 36 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it, but it looks very much kind of inspired by Castlevania, especially Symphony of the Night, and has really, really cool pixel art. So check out that trailer. I thought it looked cool. Hopefully the gameplay can kind of match the vibe that they've got going there. Number 9, a new song pack is coming out for Beat Saber. This is the first pack that will be featuring hip hop. It's called Hip Hop Mixtape, and it's actually out now for Oculus, PSVR, and PSVR 2. And this will also be the first pack to feature explicit lyrics with a toggle to turn them on or off. Some of the songs include from artists like Tupac, Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Outkast, The Notorious B.I.G., Dr. Dre, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and Pop Smoke. Love Beat Saber. Haven't played it in a little while because I only have the original PSVR and it's a mess of wires to get out. I really want the new one, but I don't know. I want to wait and see what they do with PC compatibility. But Beat Saber is amazing. Love the Linkin Park and the Green Day packs, and the Rocket League pack. Man, they've got some great games there, and that's quite a workout actually. If you play 10 songs on there and really get into it and try to beat them on expert or something, you're gonna be a sweaty mess, especially around the face where that VR thing is just suction cupped to your skull. But for such a weird kind of thing where you're dancing in the living room with controllers with lights on them, it's one of the most fun games in VR for sure.
Yeah, such a cool game.
All right, number 10, Gran Turismo's World Series Tournament is taking place later this year, and anyone that owns the game can enter the qualifying Nations Cup. On the PlayStation blog, it says, quote, any player who has a copy of Gran Turismo 7 for PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 can enter the series by heading to Sport Mode in the game. Once there, sign up for the Nations Cup, racing to represent your home country or territory, or the Manufacturers Cup, racing for your favorite manufacturer. First up from April 17th are the online qualifiers for the Nations Cup, which are 6 rounds played out over 3 weeks. From Wednesday, May 8th, the action switches to the Manufacturers Cup, a similar 3 weeks and 6 rounds. If you happen to win those events and are selected to participate in the live events later in the year, they are held in Montreal, Canada, Prague, and Tokyo, Japan for the first 3 rounds, and the world finals will be dated and a location announced later. So very cool that anyone can just sign up for the qualifiers. That is a very hardcore game if you want to get into like the legitimate racing space. Have you ever seen the Gran Turismo movie? That's one I need to get back to and actually watch.
The new one? Is that the only one?
I think that's the only one. It has David Harbour and Orlando Bloom.
I have not seen it. I'm shocked that I haven't seen it.
Me as well. I know I heard good things about it, surprisingly, for a movie based on a video game about racing. And it's actually about a story about a kid who got into a video game about racing and then became a real race car racer. So kind of a weird story.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so if you want to compete in the Gran Turismo World Series, make sure you do all of the qualifying stuff before the 17th, which is Wednesday. All right, number 11. I'm kind of excited about this one. The Fallout TV series is up on Amazon Prime as of the day that this is published, and it's currently sitting at a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's supposed to be very, very solid. That might even be higher than The Last of Us got on HBO, which was an amazing show. So there's 8 episodes. All 8 of them are available now, and a second season they have already confirmed. So they must have known that they had a good thing going. Are you a fan of Fallout, Devin? And will you watch this show?
I don't know too much about Fallout. I've played 1 or 2 of them. All that I really remember is I found myself entering, let's say, endgame type areas on accident early on in the game and getting clapped by a level 39 beetle thing on the ground.
A beetle, yep, that sounds right. I mean?
And so I never really fully understood it. I think that if I were to play one now, I could get through it and really, really enjoy the game. It seems like Morrowind or Elder Scrolls to me, some unique form of leveling up, but once again, I haven't played too much of those, so I may be mistaken there.
No, it's very similar vibe. If I'm not mistaken, it's also made by Bethesda, who makes the Elder Scrolls. So
it's a good comparison then. Look at me go.
Yeah, look at you go. Yeah, Fallout, I think the vibe is really cool. Kind of that, I don't even know what to call it, like 50s like vibe with the kind of retro cars and they all go down in the vaults, and the vaults are super cool looking. And then it seems like I've played probably 20 hours of Fallout 3 and 20 hours of Fallout 4, and the beginning sections of those games are always super cool because there's kind of the mass nuclear event and you emerge from the vault, and it's always such a cool scene because the vault hasn't been opened in X number of years. And then there's, like you mentioned, crazy beetles and weird monsters all over that you might have to like build up a base to have like a safe place and explore out to meet different factions. And are you going to be friends with certain factions or not? The combat was always a little bit janky. I remember in Fallout 3, they had that kind of slow down mechanic, I think called VATS, where you could focus on like different parts of their body because the first person aiming wasn't very good. So you could like super slow down time, and kind of like a stat based system where it would be a die roll to decide if you're going to like hit the arm or not. You got an 85% chance of blowing off this arm or something like that. So sometimes you miss, sometimes you don't. So yeah, the combat kind of was a little hit or miss for me, but man, the vibe's super cool. And since I like the vibe so much, I think I'll give this show a shot. Hopefully it's as solid as all the critics seem to think it is. So
I have a weird... all 8 episodes will be out once it launches. Yeah. That's what we like to hear. Let's go.
Yeah, I like it when they do that as well. I'm kind of torn. I liked the HBO Last of Us kind of thing with an episode every week. It was kind of cool too. But yeah, I really did wish that when I had extra time, I could watch 3 of them at once or something.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I am excited to at least watch the first episode, see what that is all about. Cool. Number 12, kind of interesting. I talked about a game last week called Dredge. It's an indie game where you don't even, I don't think, ever see your character. You just drive isn't the right word. You sail your little boat around to these different islands, catching fish, selling fish, getting a better boat, and trying to figure out what cosmic weird things are going on. in these islands there's some weird water creatures underneath the surface and stuff. But that game is being made into a movie, according to Push Square. Quote, developer Black Salt Games is collaborating with production company Story Kitchen to turn the critically acclaimed indie title into a live-action flick. It's described as, quote inside a quote, The Sixth Sense on the Water, a grounded, atmospheric, cosmic horror blend of H.P. Lovecraft and Ernest Hemingway, end quote, twice. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty cool. Hopefully the
Same.
casting and the vibe can be cool. I like a good psychological cosmic horror show. Have you ever seen that one with Natalie Portman? What's that called? Annihilation.
I have, yes.
I really liked that movie. The end of it was so odd. Like that weird creature comes out of the hole in the ground and just kind of like mirrors her the whole time. That kind of cosmic vibe in that movie is kind of what I'm hoping for out of something like this. And some scary ocean things, I guess. So yeah, Dredge being made into a movie someday. I don't think any dates or anything else was announced. Number 13, Sea of Thieves is coming to PlayStation, which we already knew, but they're having a closed beta on PlayStation 5 this weekend. Anyone that's pre-ordered the game will have access to that closed beta. I know there's a lot of features. I think they're even having PlayStation exclusive servers and things. The full game releases April 30th. And if you like trophies, this game has over 250 trophies, which might be the biggest trophy list ever. I think Drive Club might currently own that, just because Drive Club had a few dozen expansions. They each had like 10 or something. But if you've heard of or are interested in Sea of Thieves, you might want to check out the beta this weekend. And number 14, last one, finally here at the end. And not a super exciting one for me at least, but Foam Stars has a new season that starts today. As a new character named Chloe Noir, and the name of the season is Mysterious Swing. This game kind of seems super dead. I haven't heard anything about it. I played it for maybe an hour, and yeah, I don't know. The Splatoon idea I really like in Splatoon, but for some reason I didn't like get the same excitement out of this, basically the exact same idea here, where you're shooting foam all over the arena, and if you are walking on your own team's color of foam, then you can kind of like, it's not swim on it in this one. I think you pull out like a surfboard and kind of surf on it. So you can move really quickly on your own team's foam, and you move really slow on the other team's foam, and it even damages you. And so that's a really cool idea, because you can play like area control with the arena itself. Like, okay, we really need to control this section, and it kind of has like capture the flag kind of vibes. I don't know, but it didn't seem especially compelling. The other bummer is, I think Helldivers 2 launched like 2 days before this game, and Helldivers is just totally blown up. Rightfully so. Helldivers is amazing. And Foam Stars, I just think is kind of dead. But any excitement for this new season of Foam Stars, Devin?
No, I know nothing about it. To be honest, I think I heard about it today.
Cool. That sounds about right. That's probably when everybody's heard about it, because everyone on Earth listens to this podcast. So they heard about it today.
Oh, yeah, they do.
All right, that was a lot of video game news, but some fun things in there. All right, a few things in board game news here. Let's see. Number one, little backstory, I guess, for number one. There's a very popular board game called Marvel United, and basically it has a bunch of like starter sets and expansions you can buy that are different Marvel characters. And it's a cooperative game, so you play together with your friends to try and defeat some enemy. And the cool thing about the game is everything in the game is mix and match. So I can have this starter set and this expansion that has Spider-Man and Green Goblin, and maybe I don't want to play Spider-Man today, I want to play as a Hulk. So I can just use Hulk against Green Goblin, or mix and match any way that I want to. That's kind of its pitch. And it's a pretty light and easy game. You can play a match in probably 30 to 60 minutes. And you take turns kind of fighting against the boss you're playing against. And the other cool co-op thing it has going is, I think on your turn you play a couple cards, and the last one that you play, your teammate also gets to play that card on their turn. So you're kind of bouncing off of each other's cards a little bit. That's the backstory here. Number 1 in board games, DC Heroes United, which is based on that same kind of game framework, is coming to GameFound, which is similar to Kickstarter, in July. CMON Games is publishing it, who is also who publishes Marvel United, and they say that they have, quote, refined, optimized, and explored to its maximum the United engine to make it stand out from Marvel United. So I don't know, that might be really cool. I'm kind of sick of superhero things, but I do like some DC characters. Superman and Batman are both awesome, and there are some cool villains in DC as well. So this might be, if it has just enough different to make the gameplay just slightly different from Marvel United, this might be exciting. Since it's coming to crowdfunding in July, it's probably not going to come out till late next year, but that was the DC Heroes United update. We'll have to play Marvel United at some point, Devin. I have
I'd love to.
The base game and one Spider-Man, kind of the two I mentioned. The base game that has Hulk and Iron Man and Captain America and a couple others, and then a Spider-Man pack that has 3 different Spider-Men and Green Goblin. All right, number 2, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which is a trading card game app for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is giving away a bunch of stuff because it's their 2-year reunion of the game coming out, and I think it's actually been very successful. According to Dicebreaker, they've had 60 million downloads, which sounds like a lot.
Woo!
I don't know if for a video game, 60 million purchases would put it like in Red Dead Redemption 2 range and be one of the best-selling games of all time. So I'm imagining 60 million downloads. It must be like a free-to-play game where you can download and start for free, and that's kind of my guess. But I don't know. I think this might be interesting to try out. Some of the free things they are giving away are 1,000 gems, which I'm guessing you use to buy new card packs, and 3 packs of the new Blazing Arena digital boosters to any players that log in. I really enjoy Marvel Snap. And Devin, we talked about Clash Royale earlier, which is basically just a card game, very similar to, it has a different fighting mechanism where you're placing your cards on a specific area of the map, and most card games are you place a card out and then an opponent places a card out. But similar idea. I really like Marvel Snap, especially the short battles. I think they're like 2 or 3 minutes. I don't know or remember really what a Yu-Gi-Oh match lasts. I used to play that with some friends in middle school, but if this Master Duel app is punchy and has maybe shortened that a little bit, then I might try it out. So I might give this one a download, see what 1,000 gems can buy me. Other than Clash, do you dabble in any trading card games, Devin?
Not that I know of, no. I think Clash is about the only mobile game I have right now.
Yeah, I don't play a ton of games on mobile either. But yeah, I mean, Marvel Snap gives me Clash vibes, other than not having to worry about like the spatial thing about protecting your towers and setting down a card in a specific spot. But Marvel Snap is really awesome. Number 2 was not about Marvel Snap, but all I have done is rave about Marvel Snap. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Get your 1,000 free gems if you like Yu-Gi-Oh! Number 3, which could have gone in video game news or board game news, I wasn't really sure. But it is Slay the Spire 2 is coming to early access in 2025, which is the sequel to a very, very, very popular rogue-like deck building game, basically a digital card game where you are trying to get to the top of the spire by winning a bunch of fights against monsters with your deck of cards, purging cards from your deck, getting new cards. along the way. It's really great. We have it on the PlayStation, Devin. You'll have to try it at some point, but I think that will be a big hit with a lot of people if they can, continue that success they've found with the first one, because it's super popular. All right, and number 4, we already talked about one trading card game with Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, but we're about to talk about a few more. So this is trading card game news here. First up, Star Wars Unlimited has 9 planned sets coming out because it's been very popular since it launched. And the first one has been given a name and a few details. It's called Shadows of the Galaxy. Includes 250 new cards that can be used in 2 pre-made decks, so kind of like a starter set if you wanted to jump in that way. Some of the cards include the Mandalorian, other bounty hunters, and Grogu, and that set will be available to pre-order starting in July. So, yeah, if anyone is interested in Star Wars Unlimited, which many people are right now, look for that in July. The next bit of trading card game news is Ravensburger is doubling the attendance numbers for 2 of their live Disney Lorcana events in Atlanta, Georgia, and I don't know how to pronounce this, in Lille, France? We'll just say France. Disney Lorcana, super popular trading card game that also came out last year, and I guess some of the live events they've had, tickets have sold out so fast they've decided to double the attendance numbers for who can come and play and participate. So if you want to go to those events, you'll probably have an easier time getting tickets now, so that's cool. And number 3, the Pokemon World Championship will be held at the Hawaii Convention Center in Honolulu from August 16th through the 18th, and the World Championship hasn't been hosted in the US since 2019 when it was based in Washington, D.C. Just a few bits of news there. The main thing I want to say about them is, man, trading card games are like having such a resurgence. If I was rich, I think I'd be really into them as well, like just buying booster packs. And there was something so nice about being young and like opening a new pack of Pokemon cards or whatever game you were playing. That's such a cool feeling. But man, it is such like as an adult, it's kind of a defeating feeling to know, okay, I really want this Grogu card. Now that's a bad example since I think Grogu comes in that set you can buy, but I really want some specific Pokemon or Disney Lorcana or Star Wars Unlimited card, and I need to buy X number of boosters to do so. Hopefully, because it can be random. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that business model. I know some games do it better and more of, I guess, what I would consider like nice to the consumer than others, but yeah, I don't know. It's a little tricky. I feel like Pokemon is having a huge resurgence right now as well. Last year, I think it was. I think they got a deal with McDonald's to have Pokemon cards in Happy Meals for just a short period of time. And just by some chance, we ended up at McDonald's and got our kids Happy Meals. And ever since that day, when they got a few Pokemon cards, they have been obsessed with Pokemon. And all of their friends are. And everyone at school is. The school has had to ban Pokemon cards again. Makes me feel like I'm growing up in the 90s again when they were banning them back then. So I don't know. I just feel like collectible card games are crazy. Crazy right now. I don't really have any interest in getting into them. I talked last week about one of my favorite card games, Radlands, and I really just appreciate that. Every card for that game comes in the box, and it's just a complete game that I don't have to worry about getting a Charizard for. But having a Charizard is a good feeling, so I think I understand the allure. But
I do as well.
Not for me. All right. Last thing, number 5, just want to give a shout out to the Board Game Deals subreddit. I check that out probably every day, which I shouldn't since I'm trying not to buy any board games this year. Trying mostly successfully, but I've faltered a couple times. And just the little shout out there is Target is having their, not annual, but a few times a year they do a buy 2, get 1 free sale, and it's going on. And you didn't hear this from me, but I think some people online will buy 2, get 1 free, then cancel 2 of them to get the one game they actually want at like a 33 or 50% discount. You didn't hear that from me, though. From me, who works for Target, I don't really. It's just a buy 2, get 1 free sale. All right, well, that was the board game news that I found and thought was worth bringing up. Anything else that you want to hit on there, Devin? I think I kind of covered it.
No, you killed it. Yeah, great job.
Sweet. All right. Well, yeah, that news section was kind of long, so we're already sitting at 90 minutes. So for the closing segment, again, just want to encourage the listeners to check us out. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcast service you use. Comment on our YouTube videos. Check us out on Patreon if you would like to. And if you would like to submit questions to the show, because that's what this ending segment will primarily be used for, is responding to listener mail. For today, I thought it might be good timing if we ended by talking about our favorite games. They can be board games or video games that are based on existing intellectual property or franchises. And it's probably a good episode to do so. I spent a lot of time ranting about Star Wars, talked about Harry Potter briefly, talked about Lord of the Rings briefly, got the Fallout TV show, the Last of Us TV show just came out last year. Oh man, I feel like there was a ton of like property-based things that we just mentioned, which is sometimes a bit of a bummer because I wish that companies would make their own unique things. This is another tangent, but we're going to go on it for just a second. There was a leak a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago, from Insomniac Games, who makes the amazing Marvel Spider-Man games. They also make Ratchet and Clank and Sunset Overdrive. Very creative team. They've made some VR games, and some of their original things like Ratchet and Sunset Overdrive are just wonderful. In their leak from a few weeks ago, they're making Marvel games for like the next 15 years. They're making, according to the leak, a Venom game, Spider-Man 3. It's already announced they're making a Wolverine game. And I think there was maybe like a sequel or 2 to that as well. I'm just like, man, they make great ones. So like it's not too big of a bummer, I guess, but just kind of the opportunity cost of what could they have creatively come up with if they didn't just have to make Marvel stuff forever. So I'm kind of in that headspace, even though I'm very excited to go see Dune, and me and my wife will probably watch Lord of the Rings again in the next couple of months. So kind of two minds with all this franchise-based stuff. But anyways, we're going to end our show by talking about our five favorite games that are based on franchises. I've been talking for a long time, so Devin, I'm going to let you give one of yours first, if that's all right.
Where do I want to start? I'm going to go with all of the Spider-Man games. Those are very nostalgic to me. I remember being at friends' homes, and all we would do in Spider-Man games was what everyone did. Climb to the tallest tower in the city and dive off. And then swing before you hit the ground. I haven't played the new Spider-Man game. I plan to very soon. But yeah, I'm going to kick it off. Number 5 is Spider-Man.
Great choice. I loved a lot of the Spider-Man games as well. I remember having one for my Game Boy Advance. It was that glacier purple color, kind of see-through. Loved that thing.
Yeah.
That game wasn't very good, but the Spider-Man game I really loved growing up was the one for the PlayStation 1, which I think was made by maybe Neversoft or one of these Call of Duty teams maybe that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, that game was awesome. Black Cat was in it. Venom was in it. For some reason, Venom was blue instead of black. Yeah, loved that game. So Spider-Man, great call out. I'm going to start mine with... I'm going to start with my 2 board games, I guess, and then I'll end with my video games. My board game here. My first one is going to be a little bit of a cheat, but again, since these are my lists, I can cheat all I want. This one isn't technically like based on any one series, but it seems like it so much that I think it basically is. It's called Final Girl, and it is a board game that it's only a solo board game, can really only be played with one person. You could play with more people, you just kind of would chat together about how you want your character to move. And you get this core box. It's a black box that has the majority of the pieces, cards and dice, and some of the final girls that you'll play as. And then you buy these other kind of episode packs that are not based on horror movies, but definitely are. This one is called Frightmare on Maple Lane instead of Nightmare on Elm Street. And in that one, you have to play against a villain that is very much inspired by Freddy Krueger.
Oh, yeah, look at that. I already love this game.
This one, a little more kind of generic slasher, but you're playing against what's his name? Hans the Butcher right here. And you're playing at kind of a summer camp, the Happy Trails summer camp. And then I only have 3 of the packs. I think there are like 20 or 25. And then my third one is even more on the nose. It's starring the Poltergeist. Definitely not based on the movie Poltergeist. So, I mean, they're just so on the nose with like their horror inspirations. But it's a very fun game. You play as the final girl, like the title suggests, and each of those VHS tapes has its own little map. And you have to move around the map, get different tools, and, start, maybe find a piece for a car to escape or whatever. But usually you have to kill the villain before he kills you. And there are also other, not NPCs, but other innocent victims like around the map. And every time the villain kills one of those, he gets stronger on his own board. So you have to try and move around, save as many of those victims from being killed so that the villain won't get too strong. Also trying to kill him, but not ending your turn too close to him because he's going to move and then maybe attack. So it's a little bit of a puzzle in that way, but very fun. Kind of has some fun dice rolls at the end where you might think you're going to die, but you get kind of this last stand kind of moment where you might survive his final blow. And that's how I actually won my first game. Was he killed me, but you have this last stand kind of die roll, and you flip over a token that's been upside down on your board the entire game. And if that token has like a heart on it, I think, then you have one last hit point. And I was able to win with that last hit point. Very fun game. Just kind of, I talked for a long time there, but kind of creates the same feeling and vibe of a horror movie in all of those series that they definitely didn't rip off, just with different names. So Final Girl, is my first one.
Ooh, okay. My second one, I gotta go Resident Evil / Silent Hill. Fantastic games. Hopefully they fell in the category we're talking about.
I think it's totally valid. I can't remember if I think the video game might have been first in those cases, so. but it's fine. They've kind of stretched out of that first game, and those movie series, especially the Resident Evil ones, just seem to keep coming out, and they must have been making money, even though I didn't go see them in the movie theater.
Yeah, I love those games. Every Resident Evil game, literally every single one I've played, is enjoyable to some point. They're not all perfect, but love those games. Really, really do.
Especially the recent ones. They've been just killing it lately. Cool. Great choice. All right. My second board game is based on one of my favorite sci-fi book series. And this book series, I think you would like if you've liked things like, and it even says here on the cover, Ender, Katniss, and now Darrow. If you like Ender's Game or The Hunger Games, I think you'd like this book series. It's called Red Rising, and it has light 6 books in the series. And this is a board game I really like. This board game kind of gets a little bit of hate sometimes, but it is based on that series as well. In that series, there are different classes of people based on colors. So the golds are like the most prestigious people you can see there in the center, and kind of the lowest class is the red class. And the book series is really great. I haven't finished it, but what I've read so far is very entertaining, and I really, really like that board game. It comes in a bigger box than it needs to, and it comes from the company that made Scythe and Wingspan and Tapestry. And so I think that people kind of had, I don't know, different expectations for the game than I did. When I got it for $12 at Target, which is like a huge steal. And it's just a really fun card game where every card is a character from the book series, and you're trying to, at the end of the game, have the best hand of cards left that work together really well. Like, some of the characters on the cards might say, you get 20 points if this other character is also in your hand. And they're characters that like would have been friends or worked together in the book series as well. And so it's all about like discarding cards you don't want, taking new cards in your hand. It's a pretty simple card game, but I think it's really solid. It gets a bit of hate because it's from Stonemaier and kind of a similar game to another one that I can't remember the name of at this moment, but I really like it. That's Red Rising as my number 2 game based on an existing franchise.
Sounds cool, to be honest. My number 3 is going to be, I believe, SNES is Disney's Aladdin. If you didn't play that game, you should have. All of my answers are nostalgic, based on sentimental childhood memories. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think I've ever beat the game. But I've tried many times.
I've only beaten it on an emulator because I was able to use save states.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. If you die, we can reload immediately. Because, yeah, if you're just playing stock cartridge in an SNES, man, that game's hard.
Yeah, there was a game, I don't remember if it was Super Nintendo, but you're like a knight, and there's like all these ghouls and ghosts coming after you, and it's like super hard. I had to use the save state strategy to get anywhere in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, that's one of the most difficult games I think ever made. I think it's called Ghouls and Goblins.
Oh, I was close.
I think that might be the name. And there was a couple of them. One for the NES, maybe, and one Super Ghouls and Goblins for the Super Nintendo. Yeah, those are so hard. He like throws a spear, maybe, and if you get hit, he like loses his armor, and then one more hit and you die.
Yeah, that game was brutal.
Very hard. A lot of those early games were. That's a really great choice. That Aladdin game's super fun. It reminds me of a lot of those games from the Super Nintendo. Capcom made a lot of those.
Really?
They made what's the other one? Our cousin had one that was Mickey Mouse, and he kind of like went through a circus, and there was like a lion boss, and the lion shot like fire at you and stuff. That one's really good as well. The Lion King game was also very difficult, but pretty fun. That level when you get to the part where they sing "I Just Want to Be King" and you have to like swing from all the animals' tails. Impossible not to end up in the water, ride on the ostrich for a while. Yeah, all those games, super awesome. Great pull. Let's see. I'm gonna do 2 kind of expected and conservative polls, and then kind of a deep cut. For my first expected one, it's going to be Lord of the Rings. Lots of games in that series that I've really liked. Growing up, I remember really liking the 2 Towers and Return of the King.
Oh yeah,
those were just fun to play through all like the scenes from the movies, like be at Minas Tirith and like kick the orcs and the ladders off the wall, and yeah, those games were awesome. Then I remember playing one called The Third Age that was a turn-based game. I don't usually love turn-based games, but that one kind of pulled me in again because you're just kind of going through the story. I remember getting to the Balrog in Moria and just not being able to beat that fight, so that's as far as I got. And then both of the more recent ones, what are they called? Shadow of Mordor and
Yeah.
Shadow of War, I think are what they're called. Super, super fun games, even though I have a little bit of open world fatigue apart from Zelda, which is amazing. Those games are both great too. Fun system, especially with the, what do they call it, the Nemesis system, where the orc chieftains will like remember your name and remember you, and if you like hurt one with acid, but he's able to escape, he'll come back all scarred up and remember you and try to like get revenge on you and stuff. That system with the orcs, war chiefs and stuff was really fun. So yeah, Lord of the Rings has had some really good games. Had some stinkers lately too. That Lord of the Rings Gollum game is supposed to be super terrible, and yeah, I don't know. So little hit and miss there, but some good ones.
That's amazing. All right, number 4 for me, kind of tapping into the same area, but any and all Toy Story games.
Oh, good one.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember exactly which ones we had, which ones my grandparents had, what systems they were on, but I remember some being 2D, and I remember some starting to go into 3D, and they were all just so good. I mean, you can't not enjoy a game that's in a kid's bedroom, and you're just a little figure. Such a cool, way cool games. I don't know how many I beat, but I'm going to go Toy Story.
I think maybe 2 of them have come out on PlayStation Plus Premium in the last year or two. You could probably play a couple of those. My kids have played at least the first hour of 1 or 2 of them. So yeah, that's a good pull. I definitely remember those. Those are pretty tough too. Let's see. My next one, number 4, is the Batman Arkham series. Batman is my favorite superhero. The Christopher Nolan movies are some of my very favorite movies. Love that series. And the video game series by Rocksteady is just super, super great. I think the first one's probably my favorite just because it's kind of like the most confined and shortest. Not that I love short games all the time, but it's just kind of, it was perfect size for what it was. I think City and Night are both like a little bigger than they needed to be, but still great. Yeah, the Batman Arkham series, especially with Mark Hamill voicing the Joker. I mean, and what's the guy that does Batman? Kevin Conroy, I think his name. I think he passed away last year, maybe, but those 2 that did the voices for like the animated show, doing all the voices in those games. I mean, just top tier acting and great, great games.
All right, last one on my list. And this is a good one, folks. Alien Isolation.
Good one.
Oh, yeah. We streamed Alien Isolation. I actually met a lot of my moderators in Twitch from this game. The game's fantastic, very scary. What I like that they did in this game is the fear is never resolved.
Yep.
You cannot kill or destroy the monster. In fact, they end up sending multiple at you in the end. All you can do is hide, sneak, use flares, distractions, and scream. Great game. Honestly, a game that is based on a horror film you would expect to be terrible. This game was not. Honestly, solid 8.5 out of 10, in my opinion. Alien Isolation is my last pick.
Yeah, great pull. I think it nails like the vibe of the first Alien movie. Just like super scary. Like you're not gonna kill this thing. Even like hiding in a locker, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
That game like was a little too scary for me. Kind of gave me Outlast vibes, which was way too scary for me. So yeah, but a great pull. That's a fun game. All right, my last one is kind of a deep cut. I just bought this game randomly on a sale, like, man, I don't even know, 7 years ago, and really enjoyed it. It's not like the best made game. It's a little janky, but it was very fun. And it's Sherlock Holmes: Crimes and Punishment. There are quite a few Sherlock Holmes games that have come out since that one, but that's the one that I've actually finished. I have a few more that I want to start. There's one kind of based on cosmic horror with Cthulhu that I want to try, but yeah, this one was really fun. You basically play a Sherlock Holmes, and you go and investigate five different crimes and gather clues, talk to and interrogate people. You might go to the jail where they're holding somebody to interrogate them, or go visit the crime scene, look for clues. And then you'll, at certain points, go into your mind palace. It's like this interface in your head, and you try to piece those clues together. Like, yeah, I found all these clues. Why is this one here? And what does this mean? Kind of to show like his deductive reasoning. And then eventually, with what you have deduced in that mind palace and the clues that you found, you come to some decision on the case, who you think did it and why. And you can be totally wrong, which is kind of fun. If you do a thorough job and find enough clues, talk to everybody multiple times, you won't end up in the wrong decision, but you can. And it's just a fun game about solving crimes. I felt like Sherlock Holmes, a kind of dumber Sherlock Holmes because it was me running it, but that's a very fun game. I think if people like a puzzle and trying to solve a mystery, and don't care if there's like a little bit of jank and the lip syncing of the audio like isn't perfect, I think you'd really enjoy that one. So,
super cool.
That was my last one, Sherlock Holmes. Cool. Well, I thought that was a really fun segment. Cool to see what you brought up, which was different than the things I thought of. All right, well, that is going to be it for episode 2 here of the Super Game Brothers podcast. We'd encourage you to check us out on Patreon. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube so that you can get our free episodes when they come out every Monday. And also, I just put up, which we mentioned earlier, my first hour and a half playthrough of Prince of Persia. So we'll be putting up some other videos that aren't just these podcast videos on there. And then some shorts as well. We've got some fun ideas for some video game and board game kind of trivia videos that will be going live on Gaming Top Down and the Super Game Brothers YouTube channels. So check those out. Check us out on Patreon if you want to write into the show or get our shows a few days early. Your support is very much appreciated and will let us continue to do the show. Make sure to check out Devin every weekday on Twitch at Player4TV.
Just Player4.
Just Player4.
Mm-hmm.
It's Player4 TV on YouTube, right? But just at Player4 on Twitch. Okay. Cool. Yeah, check him out there. I know he just finished up Dragon's Dogma, but has a lot more exciting games that he's going to be playing in the future. Anything else that you want to plug here, Devin, before we go?
No, just gratitude for listening to us. Thank you for hanging out for almost 2 hours with us again. And I mean, it means a lot to me. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it as well. All right. Well, thanks so much again for stopping by. Appreciate it. Till next time.